From the Oklahoman newsroom, this is an OSU update. I'm Jenny Carlson. The Cowboys are ready for their bowl game, their Alamo bowl game against Colorado. Well, so are the Buffs. Kyle Fredrickson joins us on the phone. And Kyle, you happen to be in Colorado. That's home stomping grounds for you, but using the holiday travel home to check in with the Buffs. How are things in Colorado?
Very snowy and very cold. I don't want to hear any of you Oklahomans complaining about the weather out there when with the wind chill. It's about -10 this morning. So the sun is out and it's beautiful, but definitely got to get back to my roots a little bit to deal with some of this. I've been in Oklahoma too long. My body's adjusted a little bit.
I was going to say, you're thin blood. You might need to make sure you've got some extra layers on today as you
right.
head to Boulder to talk to some of the Buffs players and coaches. Kyle, one of the interesting sort of sidelights of this game, you know, we've talked at different points about the former Big 12 rivalry aspect of this game, with Colorado being a former foe in the league of OSU, whether it was Big 12, Big 8. But turns out that head coach there at Colorado and a coordinator at OSU have some background. Tell us about that and just how deep those connections go.
Yeah, so, you know, back in the fall of 1990, Glenn Spencer was a senior at Georgia Tech, and that was the same year that Mike MacIntyre, CU's current head coach, was a walk-on receiver. So that's sort of how a friendship began for these two guys. You know, as years went on, it sort of developed more off the field than on the field, and that they met each other's families at several FCA camps out on the East Coast. Both of these guys were also assistant coaches at Duke, who followed each other consecutively. So they even coached some of the same players out there. So this is a chance for two old friends to come back together and face off against one another. And I know that both of them are certainly looking forward to the chance.
Well, Kyle, you know, it's interesting because so often nowadays when it comes to hiring head coaches, everybody seemingly gets wrapped up in wanting to hire the offensive-minded coaches. You don't see a lot of defensive guys getting head coaching jobs like Mike MacIntyre did at Colorado. And, you know, defense is where they've built their built their hallmark around. That defense is really good out there at Colorado. What's sort of the reasoning behind that, and how's his impact been on Colorado? What have you seen in that regard?
Yeah, you know, it's been huge, and, you know, that's another connection between these two guys, the fact that they're both defensive minds. You know, I think Glenn Spencer really respects what they've done here at CU because of that emphasis, kind of proving your point that you mentioned that, you know, a defensive guy can come in and, you know, lead a team to a conference divisional title. But in terms of what it's meant for this team this season, you know, there's no way they get to those 10 wins without the play of the secondary. 3 of the 4 guys they have in the defensive backfield are seniors. They lead the conference in pass defense. They rank within the top 10 nationally. So, you know, going against an OSU offense that at times this season has been very effective through the air is going to be a matchup we're going to have to watch. And I know that for the CU fans out here who've really been dying to see a proud history, you know, returned out here in Boulder, it's been refreshing for them to kind of see the Buffs do it in a hard-nosed way to get to 10 victories, because, you know, not a lot of teams reach that benchmark without really having that strong unit, and the Buffs certainly do.
Hey, Kyle, lastly, as we think about the connections that Glenn Spencer, Mike MacIntyre have, is there any chance that Spencer can help the Oklahoma State offense, tendencies that Mike MacIntyre might lean towards with this Colorado defense, or has enough time evolved that it's just going to be up to the OSU offensive coaches to scheme and figure out how to handle the Buff defense?
Yeah, you know, it was funny. Spencer was on a conference call a couple weeks ago with MacIntyre previewing this game, and the first thing he said is, you know, you ought to give that quarterback a little more rest, because they know how dangerous Stefo Leofau can be. He's been dealing with some injuries. But in terms of what they expect for this game, I don't know that their past history will have a ton to do with it. But in talking with OSU coaches and players before coming out here, there were a lot of comparisons to Kansas State when looking at the CU offense. A team with a very mobile quarterback who can pull it down when he needs to, and really just kind of, you know, sufficient playmakers at a lot of positions who are going to catch the football. So, you know, I don't know if there's going to be a whole lot of, you know, secrets being exchanged between old friends, but it should be a fun matchup to watch.
For sure. Well, that matchup happens on December 29th. Kickoff is 8 o'clock down in San Antonio. Be sure to stay with the best coverage team anywhere at newsok.com and every day in the Oklahoman.